Welcome in the latest episode of That SEC Podcast, brought to you by MyBookie and Twisted Tea. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols. What's up, yo Tennessee Homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh man, the season is right around the corner. Mm-hmm. Getting so fired up, Shane. I'm also getting fired up because I'm moving in next door. We're starting that. That'll be right. I mean, starting next week, we're doing that. So I know this is last minute. I apologize to the audience, but we're going to go live on Thursday. I don't know. We don't even have a time yet, but it don't matter.
Probably 6, yeah, I would imagine.
Okay, 6. Yeah, that's when we've been doing it. We might as well not change up the time every time on the audience if we really want them to show up. But, hey, we've got a really fun show planned, obviously here, but tomorrow as well, to get geared up for this Week 0 action. We're talking all SEC teams, not just Vanderbilt, but man, I'm ready, brother. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm ready. I am so ready. I couldn't be more ready. I can't wait. I'm taking in. I know you probably haven't had time. You've been so damn busy, but I finished the Florida documentary. Man, dude, it's good. It's good. They did really good. I feel like they left a few stuff out, but whatever. You know, Urban probably said, "Hey, we got to. I'm still trying to get a job." You know. So, but I will say it was fantastic. But I'm just taking in all this football action and but then I'm not gonna lie, Mike. I got a little hurt today. Got a little hurt from my Tennessee Volunteers. Yeah. Taking some of that dirty money from Food City and renaming our basketball stadium, and I had to delete every Kroger joke, and I had some good ones, brother. I had some doozies lined up for this football season, and I can no longer do that. So now it's a battle between grocery stores.
Yeah, well, so I have to ask you then, Shane. I mean, Kroger or Food City, which is the better grocery store? And I know you've got allegiances now to Food City, but in my mind, I mean, that's not even debatable. I'd much rather go to Kroger.
Well, most rich people do, I think, you know, but growing up in that KVAT lifestyle, you know, my first job was at a grocery store, obvious reasons. I try to get near as much food as possible while you work at a grocery store, but it was part of the Food City franchise, if you will. And then now my youngest, she just got her little part-time gig at the grocery store. So yes, for alliance reasons, I am going to have to stick with, I called it Food Shitty growing up, you know, because I didn't like working at it, but now that it's a competition between us and Kentucky, I am back in the KVAT again.
Yeah. Well, brother, on this show, we got a couple coach clips. We'll get to those in just a second, but you know, we love to go all around the SEC, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity, Shane, taking in, you know, what we've learned during these fall camps, the season right around the corner.
Yeah.
The defensive and offensive MVPs for every team this season, and I'm taking out quarterbacks. Okay. Because, I mean, those are easy answers for so many teams. So I can't wait for the comments tomorrow. How is KJ not the MVP? How is Spencer not the MVP? I mean, those are obvious. So right. I'm trying to go a little bit less obvious. I'm going, and not even necessarily the best players, Shane. I'm thinking if you take this guy off the team, I think the impact will be felt in a tremendous way for both the offense and defense for every single SEC team. Does that make sense?
Yes. You guys ready for the final list of the season? Because here it is. Mike's coming out with it. And don't forget, and I have to put this asterisk by every list that Mike puts out there, this is Mike's list. It's not Cousin Shane's, not Big Orange Falls. I'm sure I'll get tagged in a few of these, but it is not involving quarterback. So go ahead, erase that out of your memory, even though quarterback most likely going to be the MVP for these teams. So I like this. This is a different perspective on the MVP. So this is what you're assuming the most valuable player at the end of the season will be from each team, both offense and defense.
Yeah, and almost kind of like, they have these team banquets at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Who they're going to give it to, who's going to get that trophy on each side of the ball for every S. That's kind of how I really did this. Not the guy that's going to put up the most stats or, or maybe be a Heisman finalist. Yeah. Players that I think are not going to be overlooked in that locker room, even though they may be a little overlooked nationally, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No participation awards here. Yeah. Only the MVP. I like it. No team spirit, none of that jazz. We just want to know who's the best.
Now, we're going to get to that in just a second, Shane, but like I said, we have a couple comments here, a couple news items. Georgia, unfortunate news, Shane. We got to lead with this, I thought. Biggest news here in the SEC on Wednesday because Branson Robinson out for the year. Running back, Georgia. He was poised for a big breakout season for them Dogs, and again, I mean, Georgia, a roster unlike hardly any in the country, can sustain these type of injuries. It's not going to kill you. But Kendall Milton, another running back, he's been kind of banged up. He's not been 100%. Andrew Paul's coming off a torn ACL. And all of a sudden, Shane, the Dogs, again, not a huge question mark at running back, but a little bit of a question mark. They added Laneith Whitehead, remember the former Tennessee running back. They added him this offseason via transfer. They signed the number 14 running back in the country and the number 42 running back in the country in the last class. So they got bodies back here, but
you're right.
Just a disappointing day if you're a Dog fan here.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. It's always tough when you lose anybody, and running backs, they get tossed around a little bit, especially in the NFL. It's maybe not as big of a deal, but in college, it kind of is, brother, because of blocking. You got a new quarterback back there. If they're not picking up the blocks like they're supposed to, all of a sudden, having a running back, or an extra blocker not doing his job can come back and bite you in the ass. So, you hate to have any injuries, but especially somebody that was expecting to start immediately.
Right. And so Kirby talked about that, but I thought the highlight of his Wednesday presser, Shane, he was asked about, all that talk, the Dogs going 7-5. Did he really say that? And, we don't get a lot of personality from Kirby, but this is, he let this one slip. We got to see his personality here for a minute. I just thought this was great.
He faced the situation maybe to a slightly lesser degree last year, but after the second championship, some things were said by players about nobody thought we were going to win. One player said we were going to go 7-5. You said whatever you said, at the victory parade. It seemed apparent that somewhere along the way, you either sort of lied or skewed the truth in terms of what was being said or written out there. I'm just wondering, could you sort of acknowledge that now, and to what degree and how often do you actually do that?
I never thought if I ever thought we were going to go 7-5, they need to check me into a psychiatric ward, because I never thought that. I never said that. I never expressed that. That's never been a thing. I saw something where a player said that on the field or something, but that these players read more stuff on Twitter and social media than I do. So what I paint to them is maybe a level of disrespect before maybe one game or two games, but not a season or not a thought of that. I don't think that works when you're Georgia. I just don't think that works. I think what works is, what are we doing this week against this opponent to be better than them? And a lot of times we may be line up and be favored or be better than them. So then what are we doing to ourselves to make sure that we're trying to beat everybody in the country and not somebody? I'm a lot more passionate and adamant about what we're doing over what we're selling as what the outside world might say, or this narrative that is like, you need this narrative of the world against us. I think we may have had that once or twice last year, but that's not something that we're painting the whole time, and we're certainly not trying to paint that this year. We're focused on better never rest. We're focused on being the best.
So, hey, I mean, this may have been something that was said right after they won the championship, but apparently it wasn't coming from old Kirby.
No, he ain't saying that. But it is kind of funny because that was kind of riddled questions we had at media days. I'm looking at you, Marler, and I'm looking at some of these other guys. You know, he likes to do that. He likes to take little bits and pieces of things he's learned or saw on the media or it's brought to his attention and use it as fuel, because when you're at top, man, it takes this, and some of it's propaganda, but I like these comments here.
Yeah, and next let's kick it on down to South Carolina, Shane, where we got to hear from offensive coordinator Dowell Loggains, and we've talked so much about Spencer Rattler this offseason, but basically anytime I talk to a Gamecock and they want to talk about why they believe Spencer Rattler will have a much better, more consistent season, they go right to the offensive coordinator, Dowell Loggains, getting rid of the old guy. Nobody wanted him. Nobody liked him. Bad relationship with Spencer Rattler, seemingly. I don't know for a fact, but it was kind of evident at times how that relationship now with Dowell Loggains seems to be, by all accounts, he's doing what Spencer Rattler is comfortable with and stressing what he's good at and shying away from maybe things Rattler does not want to get to. And I really like this comment from Dowell Loggains. And this kind of confidence, these kind of sentiments, this is exactly what you want to hear if you're a Gamecock fan right now.
Yeah, we've heard different things, whether it be the phrase leash or just command, just letting Spencer be able to go out there and just have a little bit more control of the offense. For you as an offensive coordinator with your experience, is that something that you have done throughout your coaching career, or is it a combination of the player also earning that trust?
I think it's a bit. I mean, it's all the player. And if you ask this in the spring ball, I'm sure Clayton, the defensive staff, and our defensive players would tell you it feels like there's a lot more going on with him. Like he's a lot more involved that way, and it's because we wanted to introduce some concepts in spring ball and figure out what he likes. And you got to get reps. You can't, as a young player, he does have advantages. He's played for three different offensive systems. That is that's advantageous to your learning football. It's not always advantageous to having success on the field, but your football mind has grown every time you play in a new system. Obviously, consistency helps more than anything to produce on the field at a high level. But all those experiences, so he was able to see what we do on paper and on the board, and then go out and execute a little bit, and then you kind of start to figure out, okay, hey, what about if you see this, get to that, or if you see that, get to this, and you got to figure out, in the classroom is one thing, like I can get us in the right play in the classroom, but now all of a sudden bullets are flying, and it's live, and you got a pass rush, and they're disguising, like, can you check plays there? And for right now, he's doing a lot. He's doing an awful lot of line of scrimmage, and it's because he's earned that right. And we fill his toolbox, and the more he can do, and the more he can handle, the more we'll give him. But the one line that we always talk about in the QB room with that, to whom much is given, much is required. And so the more he studies, and the more there's also there's a guts thing that takes. Like, it's one thing to say, like, hey, I'm going to change the play. It's one thing to say it in a meeting room, but it's another thing to go do it. It takes guts to do that. Like, you're in front of your team. You're in front of 10 other guys that are sitting in the huddle and like, whoa, easy. He's changing the play to what? Like, why are we doing this? So for him to be able to do that, like, we had to go – that was the ball security thing. It's the most annoying thing in the world. Can we not find a better place to put that thing? Golly, like, put it out in the locker room or something. I'm sorry, but that is annoying, isn't it? Like, I thought someone was trying to get in the door. But for him to be able to, and you got to have, like, hey, you got to be able to give him enough leash to where it's like, hey, go do it, go try it. Like, have the courage to do it, have the guts to do it, and then reel him back in sometimes, like, hey, why'd you do that? Because you don't want to leave the reservation. Like, you don't want to become, like, where it's like, you don't want it to be Denny's at 2 a.m. when you order something. You're like, I don't know what's coming out of the kitchen. But so when you give him that kind of freedom, like, making sure that it's each, the advantageous looks. And I do think his experiences definitely help him that way because he's been a part of a lot of football. And he's seen a lot of different things, a lot of, that most college players don't get, don't get to play in 3 different systems. And I'm sure he would love to say, hey, I wish I was in one system for the last 3 years, but it's going to help him long term.
We had some wide receivers in here yesterday just talking about your scheme and how they feel like it lets them get down the field more. What would you say about your scheme works best for wide receivers specifically?
I think the receivers would probably be really happy that Spencer Rattler's a quarterback. Because his ability to push the ball down the field allows them to do stuff down the field more so than scheme. And we got some guys that can run. And it's not like, to me, I keep telling everyone this, even some of the offensive coaches, the offensive players, it's not what we want to do scheme-wise, it's what our guys do well. And now let's change presentations. Let's keep doing that. Let's get really good at it versus there's a lot of plays. I mean, I've spent 17 years in the NFL. I have 5,000 plays that I love, and they're all good. But it's now what fits our players. And
all right, Shane. So, again, I mean, all the buzz – and this is almost assured, since I disrespected Spencer Rattler, that he's going to be the best quarterback in the SEC. He's going to win the Heisman, and the Gamecocks are going to win 10, 11 games. And I hope it happens, and because I'll be, I'll just be made a damn fool for months on end on social media.
Well, it's funny. If you ever look at any comment of yours about Spencer Rattler online, there's likes, there's retweets, and there's bookmarks. And it's funny because it seems like there's more bookmarks than likes on a lot of those. So everybody's saving this ammunition, myself included, Mike. Don't think for once you're safe because we're family. I cannot wait to drag you through the mud here. But, hey, crazier things have happened, and either you're right or you're wrong. It's not a 50-50 here, but they're saying the right things. One of the biggest concerns we had with this offense last year was the coordinator, and I guess you would say one of the concerns was a new coordinator this year, but they're saying the right things. This is Spencer Rattler's team. They are going to run this offense through him, and they're not looking to reinvent the wheel. They're just looking to make it easier for him to be productive on Saturdays. So, yeah, I can't wait. We're going to get – that's the beauty of it. Week 1, you talk about a team that's got a spotlight on them. It's the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah, and I was just going to go there, Shane. This is something that we're not going to have to wait the whole season. It's week 1. It's week 3 against Georgia. It's week 4, Mississippi State, and week 5 at Tennessee. Let me ask you this, and I know this is maybe impossible to answer, but is he just going to be completely judged by the first month or so of the season? I mean, if he, let's just say, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if he does not perform well that first month, but then maybe the rest of the season, the final 7 games, he kicks ass.
Yeah.
Will people even care if he doesn't get it done at the beginning? Or does he have to come out here and show that he's an NFL quarterback right out the gate? And that doesn't mean he's got to beat all these teams, particularly Georgia on the road, but does he have to perform really well, I think, for him to get that respect for the entire season? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question, Mike. And I think it depends on who you're asking. If you're asking a South Carolina fan, it does not matter. It matters how they're going to look at the body of proof here. But if you're looking outside of Columbia and you're asking someone about Spencer Rattler, listen, brother, there's going to be 3 games in that first month that are going to be broadcasted on every channel in the country. And I'm looking at the North Carolina game, I'm looking at the Tennessee game, I'm looking at that Georgia game. So I'm not saying that they're going to judge them on those 3, but outside of those 3, nobody else is going to be watching them if they are struggling out of the gate. So yes, I think there's going to be there's a tremendous amount of pressure that comes. But if you also look at South Carolina's schedule, that old saying, they don't care what you do until November, the tail end of that, they got an opportunity to redeem themselves, but people are still going to have that taste in their mouth from September.
And last thing I got on this, Shane, I would say that there's very few, if any, players right now in college football that have had to deal with expectations, pressure, in the national spotlight as much as Spencer Rattler, because it's basically been with him his entire career. He was virtually the first NIL guy, he's getting all this money, and we don't need to rehash what happened at Oklahoma, but I mean, the pressure was intense. Coming to South Carolina last year, he was viewed as like some savior. and now coming back in a new scheme. And we've said it so many times, but it seems like the hopes of the team rest on his shoulders. So, again, more pressure, but
Yeah.
he's dealt with this before, so this is nothing new to him.
Yeah, and it's almost like it makes him better during big games. When the pressure is, you would think, to the extreme. When you've been under that spotlight your entire, especially last 3 years, it's like, yeah, it's just another game, and it slows down for athletes like Spencer. So I'm looking forward to see what he's doing. Like I said, there's so many pivotal matchups in September. I mean, if you're a Gamecock fan and you got season tickets, watch out. You're in for a hell of a season.
Right. And one last thing, Shane, before we get to this MVP talk, I just wanted to throw this at you to get your thoughts, because I don't know if you had seen this. Talking Florida Gators for a moment. And I realize, not everybody is a big fan of this guy, Stuart Mandel, but I've been reading this stuff for 20 years. Fan of his podcast he does with Bruce Feldman. I read virtually everything he writes, but he just put out his SEC predictions, Shane, over at The Athletic. And I'm not going to go over all of them because you got to pay to read The Athletic, so I don't want to ruin it for him. But one stood out, Shane. The Florida Gators, according to Stuart Mandel, and again, he's a managing editor of college football over there at The Athletic. He's not just some clickbait guy or anything like that. Stuart Mandel's got the Florida Gators, Shane. 3-9 is his predicted record. 1-7 in SEC play, and he says Billy Napier's ass will be fired before Thanksgiving. Again, not my words, Stuart Mandel, but the reason I'm just throwing this out there, Shay, not to shit on the Gators, but 3-9. I mean, even when I went through my cycle of talking bad about them, I said, well, hell, I think they can get 6-6, 5-7. I never in my life have I sat here and envisioned a scenario where Florida could go 3-9. Have you?
No. Can you pull up that schedule? I'm curious.
Yes, sir.
Did he mention which three that they would win?
No, it was just more.
Oh, okay.
They're going. His ass going to get fired. They don't put up with that in Florida and all that jazz. He didn't really go through it.
I get
game
that.
by game.
Well, that's another one. We were just talking about South Carolina. Those ESPN has those percents.
Right.
Odds you win in the game and stuff like that. And I think they had South Carolina at 5 wins or 4 wins or something like that. It was crazy. I mean, clearly that's not going to happen. Just like 3 games. I can't see Florida Gators just winning 3 games.
Yeah, so here's their schedule, Shane. And I mean, again, I'll just have to guess which games he's leaning here. But, I mean, we know 1-7 in SEC play. So at Utah, I'm assuming that's a loss in his book. McNeese State at home, guessing that's a win. Tennessee at home, I'm going to guess that's a loss in his book. Charlotte at home, that's a win. At Kentucky, probably a loss. Vanderbilt at home, I have to imagine that's the only SEC win he sees.
They lose out.
At South Carolina, Georgia and Jacksonville, Arkansas at home, at LSU, at Mizzou, Florida State at home. And I will say this, because I don't believe any of this, but you said the key thing there, Shane, losing out. If you're the Florida Gator head coach and you go from October 14th to November 25th and you lose every game, yeah, they're going to fire your ass. I mean, that's because this is the Florida Gators, man. And you just referenced the Swamp Kings. I watched just a little bit of it so far, but what does Urban Meyer say? It's not, you're not competing for championships. The standard is to win championships. Yeah. So you can't go 6 games in a row losing every damn game and then be like, yeah, all right, better luck next year. I mean, that's not going to fly. You know what?
No. And what's so dangerous about that is that recruiting class, because these are kids. And what happens if they decide, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this right here at the end? We've all seen it. We've all seen these classes. Volunteer fans know exactly what I'm talking about. It's sometimes it can become a mass exodus if there's a little uncertainty who's going to be your coach in 3 years. So, yeah, this that's a tough pill to swallow. But again, this is what the Florida Gators are used to. I think they've turned off all media at this point, except for that SEC podcast, because we got faith in you. We got faith that at least you're going to a bowl game, and that who knows, you may exceed those expectations. There's a few on there that he may have penciled in as a loss, but we don't. But it is going to be every game a freaking battle. Every single game, they're going to have to bring their A game, or they're going to look back and who knows, he may start packing up.
All right, Shane, you ready to talk MVPs of every SEC team on offense and defense?
Abso-freaking-lutely, Mike. Have you been growing your hair out? You got what is this? You just showing off now?
No, it's called I don't have time to go get a damn haircut.
I got you, man. You coming over here? They don't fly on this side of Tennessee, Mike. You better be.
All right, I'm just going to go in alphabetical order here, Shane. Starting with Alabama, offensive MVP in my mind, J.C. Latham at right tackle. He won me over at Media Days with some of his comments, and you know they've made no bones about it, Shane. Alabama getting back to ground and pound. They want to physically dominate you. They want to be run heavy, and the only way it's going to happen, we love the running backs, but it's got to be that offensive line. They have got to set the tone for the Crimson Tide. So give me J.C. Latham. And on defense, Shane, I'm going Dallas Turner, linebacker. Got to step up for that leadership void left by Will Anderson, who was the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft. Dallas Turner has got to step up, not saying he's got to be the next Will Anderson, but he's a great player in his own right. He's got to step up in the leadership void. So thoughts on that, J.C. Latham and Dallas Turner for Alabama?
Well, the Latham one, I think you hit the nail on the head, and a lot of that has to do with leadership. He is, Saban's been out here and said it a few times that's where some of this leadership is coming from, is that offensive line. So we know exactly who he's talking about here. And we got a new tackle on the left side, and kind of like high school ball, you always put your best on the right. And in this scenario, I think they're going to just run right behind him. It's like, doesn't matter. We're going to tell you where the ball is going to go. So I think that's important. If they're going to have this push and this offensive rushing attack like they expect to have this season, it's going to be because of him. And I have no bones with that. The only question I've got on the defense side, how close? Kool-Aid's the name that keeps popping up. This is a guy that sometimes the stat lines are deceiving, and it's just because people don't throw to him. Is there any reason that he didn't make this list?
No reason. I think he's probably the most outstanding player, but I'm just trying to think of how many times a corner is considered, the heart and soul of a football team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They seem, and I don't want to generalize everybody, but they're interesting characters. They're me first guys, and they got that bravado. So is he going to get in the face of some defensive linemen on a critical situation? I don't think so. I think that's a linebacker right there.
Yeah, that's like my brother was a cornerback. Now it makes sense. That selfish bastard living in Hawaii with the tan. I get it now. He literally is an island. So.
Yeah. All right, how about Arkansas, Shane? And again, we're not doing quarterbacks because we can do quarterback for damn near every one of these teams, and it would just, then it just becomes a quarterback list. But for offense, you already know, man. I'm going Rocket Sanders, just a beast, and the work he's putting in could be the most dominant offensive weapon in the SEC this season. So give me Rocket Sanders. I think he'll step up and be one of the biggest names in all the country this year. On defense, Shane, I like Chris Paul, the linebacker, stepping up, being one of the key figures for this Arkansas defensive turnaround. I know there's a bunch of linemen. Could have went with any of the linemen here. Apparently they're all elite down there. They've got some great cornerbacks as well. But give me Chris Paul at linebacker to be kind of the heart and soul of this Arkansas defense this fall.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. On the Rocket Talk, that's a good segment right there. Come on, Arkansas, you should be using that one. But on Rocket Talk, I would say this, brother. Again, similar to what I just told you about Kool-Aid, is if he's back there in the backfield, you cannot go light in the box. And I think that makes life a little bit easier, especially for this passing attack. So, no question, easy pick on offense. Defense, this one surprised me, man. If at the end of the year we're picking one of those defensive dudes up front, you know what I'm saying? Because similar to what you said, that's what we keep hearing the glowing comments out of camp, is that this defensive line is legit, and at any given Saturday, one of these guys could take over and change the whole chemistry of a game. So I'm with you. I'll go linebacker here, but I think it's just because there's not one defensive lineman that's standing out for me.
Right. Now, Auburn, Shane, this is a difficult one for me because there's so many new faces, particularly on the offensive side of the football. But I'm going with left tackle, Dylan Wade, the transfer from Tulsa, played for offensive coordinator Philip Montgomery at Tulsa, so he'll know the scheme. And offensive line's been such an issue for Auburn in recent years that I think he's a major upgrade. And come on, man. I mean, I think we're going to get back to the line of scrimmage, toughness at Auburn. So give me the left tackle, Dylan Wade. And defense, they got everyone back on the defensive backfield, so I could have went that direction, but we already seen it, Shane, at SEC Media Days. Who'd they bring? They brought the Vandy transfer, Elijah McAllister at linebacker. That should tell you something about his leadership, his winning over the team, so to speak, in a very short time. So I'm going Elijah McAllister on the defensive side as well.
Yeah, I think that's good. And what's rare about Auburn is, like you said, they have all these pieces that just came in. So this isn't last year's Auburn. This isn't the year before Auburn. This is a brand new team, brand new coach, staff. So they find the emerging talent. They find the emerging leadership on there. So I think that speaks volumes. The fact that not just that he was there at Media Days, but he crushed it. So, yeah, I like these picks, man.
All right, how about Florida, Shane? On offense?
What about running? I'm just going to ask you about Hunter. I mean, is it because we don't know? It's a little uncertainty.
When you may be suspended. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was a main reason to avoid that one.
Okay. I was just curious.
But he may be, he might be the biggest breakout. Running back in the country. I'll give you that for sure. All right, for Florida, Shane. And again, some of these picks, I went with guys that could have left, Shane, and they came back. And generally, if you do that, it's because you love where you're at, you believe in the coaching staff, you believe in the culture, and you want to influence the next generation, so to speak. And I think that fits Ricky Pearsall, the receiver, down at Florida to a T. I don't know how good of an NFL prospect he would have been, but he damn near went. And he came back. He represented him at Media Days. Funny story, Shane, at Media Days, he saw old Ricky over there with his glasses on pose. He said, "Who's that?" I said, "That's Ricky Pearsall, Florida." And he said, "That looks like a Florida receiver right there."
I've never seen him in person. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he was definitely dressed the part. You want to talk about cornerbacks? I'm saying, if he is one of those dudes right there. But you're right, he is going to be a big part of this. He may be the only part outside those running backs on this field.
Right. So they're going to need him big time way here, Shane. When it's third and long, they got to find Ricky. He's got to be the one that's extending these drives. So I think he's a big-time player for the Gators. And I'm going linebacker Shamar James. Shane, he was a breakout candidate last year, coming now in a second year. This is Billy Napier's guy on the defensive side of the football. Going to need him to step up and be a leader. And I know they added some transfers they really like. They got some defensive backs they really like. But to me, it's Shamar James' show. I mean, he could be an All-American this fall.
Yeah, I like these, man. I like them big boys up front. I wish you would have picked one of them, but I get it. Little guys, they get all the loving. On offense, I would lean a little more ETN. I think there's going to be some games that we're going to need to be creative. And he's one of those guys that can catch out of the backfield. Don't be surprised if he doesn't line up in the slot. They're going to find ways to get him the ball and in space. So that's a dude right there that, again, one little miss, and then he's taking it to the house. And Florida's going to need some players like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, how about Georgia, Shane? I mean, I think this was an easy one here, but
just close your eyes and throw a dart, you know?
I'll go with Brock Bowers, Shane.
Yeah.
Because by all accounts, not only is an all-world receiver and blocker, but just goes hard as hell every single day, and that's probably part of his greatness because he never takes a day off.
Yeah.
And, it's easy to just go with the best player, probably the best player in all of college football, but I think he's putting in the work behind the scenes, and we may look back years down the road and say, they had a lot of great players at Georgia, but who was the guy that, if they go 3 for 3, we may circle and be like, who's the one guy that was there the entire time and was a star the entire time? It'll be Brock Bowers. You know what?
Yeah. You ever? No, sorry.
Well, and that doesn't take away from any of the great players they had the last couple of years, but I'm just saying the one guy that was starred all 3. I mean, that's pretty outstanding,
No, yeah. And well, the only thing about Brock too is I think he's elevated the work ethic for everybody in that locker room. Somebody that just puts in the extra reps, puts in the extra time, and everybody knows that Brock's going to be a first-round pick. He's going to be very successful in the NFL. It's almost a given. But it wasn't given to him. It is something that he works on, and even though he's excelled and exceeded expectations, he still works as hard as he did the first day he got on campus. So you can't just replace that. We keep talking about Swamp Keys, it's like Tim Tebow. That's a dude that just didn't have an off switch, and it made everyone else around him work harder just to keep up with him. So, yeah, I'm with you here on Brock.
Now, on the defense, Shane, this was tough because there's a lot of great players on that Georgia defense. Could have went any direction here, Shane, but I'll go with Javon Bullard, the safety / nickel. So, I mean, he plays all over the field there for the Georgia Bulldogs. But give me his leadership back for another year. So I kind of, when possible, I'm leaning towards the elder statesmen, so to speak. But I love everything about Javon Bullard and his progression there in Athens. He's a true leader down there.
Yeah, and everything you hear in camp, it's just glowing remarks. It's almost like the Bowers of the defense. So, it takes one of these guys, one of these alpha dogs, because that's what we're looking for. Who's the dudes that step up and make Georgia's defense unbearable and unplayable? It's guys like this that is going to get the most out of the players that are on that roster already.
Yeah. Now, how about LSU, Shane? Again, it would have been very easy. If we're going to quarterbacks, probably would have went that direction, but we're not going quarterback. So on offense for them Tigers, Shane, I'm going Malik Neighbors, the standout receiver. They need him to be a big-time, prime-time player like he was late in the season against Georgia, against Purdue in the bowl game. And, he caught fire. We've documented that. If he lives up to the hype, LSU is going to have one hell of an offense this fall.
Yeah, and what's the beauty of that is the attraction he has when he's on a field. When he is playing like his hair on fire, they're starting to shade coverage his way all the time, which is going to open up other avenues of offense for LSU. And you heard it from Kelly. This is a guy he basically called out and says, this is his season, and it's up to him. Does he take that step forward? And I think he does.
Now, I'm going to throw a little curveball here, Shane, and I'm going to go on defense. Probably not a guy you'd suspect I'd go with here, but I'm going Omar Spates, the transfer from Oregon State, and I'll tell you why. I mean, Harold Perkins, great player. Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo, all great players. Not calling them out. But, I mean, Spates, he could have went to Alabama. I mean, he was that highly regarded. He came to LSU for a reason, and I think having him on the field will allow them to utilize Harold Perkins in a number of ways, put him all over the field to create mismatches. And I just think that, having those beasts in front of him will free up Spates to make big-time plays. So I just like what I'm hearing at a fall camp and the maturity. And again, this is another guy could have went to the NFL. Instead of that, he's coming to the SEC. He wants to prove himself at the highest level. The defense has got to get better at LSU. We've got some elite players, but they were not always as consistent last fall. So maybe getting a two-time captain over here, an all Pac-12, all-American type player in that middle of the defense, I think Spates could be the missing piece to have more consistency for LSU's defense this fall.
Yeah, that's bold, man, because Perkins is a hell of an athlete. You know what I'm saying? That I think about the what was it, the Arkansas game by himself. I could argue that he single-handedly won that game, and he didn't even play offense. So I'm leaning a little more Perkins on this one, just because of the role he's going to be in. But I get your argument.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to make it interesting too, Shane. You know what?
Yeah, but man, Perkins is a dude, man. Them defensive linemen are dudes. If they come together, again, you want to talk about changing the ball game. If you can't run, you know what I'm saying? Make a team one-dimensional, dude. As long as they stay healthy, they're going to be dangerous.
Well, I'll tell you what's not dangerous, Shane, and that's heading on over to MyBookie. As long as you fade our picks all fall, you'll make a ton of money over there betting at mybookie.ag, Shane, and all our listeners got a great offer here with promo code THATSEC, THATSEC, over at MyBookie, Shane. They will match your initial deposit up to 50%, all the way up to $1,000 with a minimum initial deposit of $45, Shane. And people ask us all the time, how can we help the podcast? We don't ask for much, Shane. This show's free. We want it to always be free. And the best way to take advantage of that and keep the show free is to take advantage of this MyBookie offer. There's a link in the show notes. Head on over to mybookie.ag, start up an account, and don't forget that promo code THATSEC. Sign up today. Play with us all season long. This is the best time of the year. And the only thing that makes college football, SEC football better, Shane, is having a couple bucks on these games. You know what?
And you don't have to do a lot. That's the crazy thing. You could put $1,000 in there and they give you $500 back, but even $100, they give you $50 back. Take that money, that extra money, and start putting it on these games, $2 or $3 here and there. You'll be. If you just faded me the last 3 years, you would have came out successful. So, no reason not to jump on there and have some fun. So don't forget that promo code is THATSEC.
Yep, and the show's also brought to you by Manscaped. Shane, head on over to manscaped.com and check out the Beard Hedger Pro. It's their new product. We love it, Shane. It comes with shampoo, conditioner, oil, and palm. But Manscaped has been a partner with us for multiple seasons for a reason, Shane. We believe in their products, incredibly high quality. We would not partner with them if it was not the highest standard of products you can get over there from manscaped.com. Shave your beard, shave your head, shave anything you want, Shane. I ain't going to judge you. Just head on over to manscaped.com and check that promo code SEC for 20% off your entire order with free shipping, including international shipping, Shane. So, again, that's promo code SEC, manscaped.com. Help the podcast take advantage of these sponsorship opportunities. All right, Shane, so how about this one? I think you're really going to like this one.
I'll be the judge of that, Mike.
Ole Miss offensive MVP. I would not even go say it because you already know it.
Yep. Or you want me to say it? Judkins, baby.
Yeah. I mean, this team is basically going to go as far as Judkins can take them.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a guy that says Jackson Dart could be the number 3 quarterback in the SEC this fall. And why do I believe that, Shane? Because he's going to have a beast next to him that may be capable, Shane, of knocking off of Alabama and LSU or Georgia. He is that caliber of an athlete. Judkins, give me Judkins. There is no other option on this Ole Miss team for offensive MVP than Judkins.
And you heard Coach, he's going to be receiving a lot more this year. I'm talking about all-purpose yards. This guy's going to have a ton of opportunities this season and a huge part of that offense.
Yeah, and on the defensive side, Shane, we've added a ton of talent. There's many options here, underrated defenders in Oxford. But again, I'm leaning towards seniority, guys that have been there, guys that don't have to be there, could have left. Give me defensive lineman Cedric Johnson, stand out from last season. I think he'll be utilized perfectly in this Pete Golding defense. Junkins, Cedric Johnson. There may not be a better 1-2 in the entire SEC right there, brother. Now, if there is, though, maybe it's at Mississippi State, Shane.
Yeah.
We can't disrespect
Will
them
Rogers.
dogs.
That's who I'm going with. Who you picking?
I'm going Woody Marks, Shane, the running back. There's going to be a lot on his plate this year because his workload is going to be increased tremendously in this new scheme. We've got some great receivers here as well that are going to be utilized this fall. But I'm going Woody Marks, do-it-all running back from Mississippi State. If they're going to make this transition successful, of course, Will Rogers is going to have to be instrumental in that. But Woody Marks has got to handle the load like he's never been asked to do before in college football. So that's why he's my offensive MVP. And defense, this is another easy one, Shane. I'm going Boogie Watson, linebacker, one of the top tacklers in all the country, not just the SEC, the country. Last season, they got the best 1-2 punch at linebacker in the SEC with Boogie Watson and Jet Johnson. So give me Boogie. Could be Jet. Could be any of them. They got great names down there at Mississippi State. You know what?
Hey, is there? And I know this is kind of cheating because he is technically a quarterback, but Mike Wright, do you think there's a scenario where, he's just a utility man, could do a lot of different things, and then all of a sudden we look at the end of the season and say that's the most valuable player on that offense, and it didn't even come down to him throwing the ball?
Yeah, because, he just could be a nightmare matchup.
Yeah.
And he proved that even at Vanderbilt, and he'll have more talent around him at Mississippi State.
And the coaches being all giddy talking about him and stuff, it's almost like they don't want to let it out of the bag yet, That's my guy. That's the one I got my eyes on for, other than Will Rogers. I think he's going to just, hell, you could pick any of these receivers, but when it all comes down to it, brother, I think that Mike Wright pickup is the most intriguing one of this offseason for Mississippi State.
Yeah, well, we had those comments from Kevin Barbay last episode, Shane. It was like, he was like a kid who knew he's got a Christmas present under the tree, but he can't wait to go to sleep so he can go down there and open it,
Yeah, that's right. Who's Mike Wright?
Now, how about Mizzou, Shane? I almost went, I think, I didn't go with the obvious one. I could have went Luther Burden.
Yeah.
He'll be phenomenal. We know he will be. But I'm going with the left tackle, Javon Foster, Shane, because the quarterback competition is looming, because we may not have an elite running back, because offensive line kind of let us down last year. Mm-hmm. We need the best offensive lineman to step up, be the leader, be the force of change to go from somewhat of a weakness to a big-time strength for Missouri to help the quarterback, to help the running backs. Give me Javon Foster, left tackle from Mizzou. And again, I know you love the big ugly, so this one's for you, man.
Well, and I'm glad you did it, because I think Luther is going to be the guy. How close was that? I know you want to pick
I wrote Luther down first. I'll be honest.
Did you? Okay,
I was
going to say.
But then I was like, let's give some love to the big man,
Yeah, because I just think he's going to be such I think more of a focal piece in this offense. Not that he wasn't last year, but I think that they're going to do a better job finding ways to get him the ball in space, because why wouldn't you? This guy is so dangerous. He could take anything. I hope he's on special teams again, where he can do something back there, a punt return or kick return or something like that. He's just so electric. So I'm going to go Luther. I get it. I love big guys, and they need their love. The left tackle's pivotal, because you got to give this guy time to throw the ball to Luther, and you also got to get this running game going, because if you don't get that, then again, this wide receiver core is going to suffer in the long run. So Luther's calling you right now. Look at him.
He's mad as hell. Now, on the defensive side, this was an easy one for me, Shane. Tyron Hopper, outstanding linebacker, someone that passed up the NFL draft. And you see it from Drake in these press conferences. This is one of the key guys he's talking about when he's saying, hey, we got to prove these guys right that could have left here. They could have went on to the next level. They came back to improve their stock, to improve the team, and go out a winner. So Tyron Hopper, one of the best linebackers in the country, I think he's our defensive MVP for Mizzou.
I like it, man. Get in the Hopper.
Now, for South Carolina, Shane, this is the player that made me want to even do this list, Shane. And, again, we're not doing quarterbacks. This guy's not a quarterback anymore, but he was. But I think he epitomizes what Shane Beamer's doing down there, the team, the culture, where you're trying to figure out how in the hell are these guys beating so many teams. And my offensive MVP, Shane, I know the easy one would be Juice Wells, because I've said it many times. I think he's the best receiver in the SEC. So
can I guess?
We can give it to Juice Wells, but go ahead and guess who I got.
Joyner?
Is to carry on Joyner, Shane.
Good.
Selfless player. He's played quarterback. He's played receiver. Now he's transitioning to running back, and it sounds like he's going to be our starting running back. Shane, he's never played it in college football, but he's bought in. He's doing what he has to do. And I think that's kind of the South Carolina way, Shane. So, again, he's not going to be the highest draft pick or whatever. You know, that we've talked on and on and on about Spencer Rattler. We've praised Juice Wells to no end. But this is kind of what I think of when I think of an MVP of a team, is a guy like Dakereon Joyner.
And this is why you really made the list with no quarterback, so you didn't have to pump up Spencer, did you? You just hate the guy so much that you had to create a list that excluded quarterbacks. No, I get you, man. And Joyner is going to be that guy. And it's not just, like you said, it's not going to be just running. They'll have him out there. And I mean, he's just going to be a matchup nightmare if they use him right, and I think they will. Yeah. So this is a good one in my opinion. This is a guy that we really do need to step up, though. You know, he's going to have to make some plays if South Carolina especially comes out of September, you know, with a winning record.
Let me ask you this about Joyner, though, because this is a difficult one. How do you think he scores the most touchdowns this fall? Rushing? Yeah. Receiving? Or passing, because you know they're going to have him throwing a couple times, trick plays or something. You know what I mean? Like he's probably going to throw a couple touchdowns too, I would imagine. Which one of those would you go? Rushing, receiving, or passing to carry on Joyner most touchdowns?
Oh, that's a great question, Mike. And I think I'm going to go receiving. I think when we get down to those, because you're always looking for cheap touchdowns within the 5-yard line, and yeah. I don't think they're turning around handing it to Joyner. I think they'll have someone else for that. But he will have some rushing touchdowns, and like you said, he'll have some. Spencer will have a couple of receiving touchdowns from this man. Just wait, it's coming. But I think when it's all said and done, he's going to get most of his yardage and scores through the air.
Yeah.
Screens and things like that. You know what I'm saying?
They may even pull out the old jump pass, just like Swamp King. You know what I mean? Like I could see him on the goal line doing Wildcat, and defense is gonna have no clue what he's gonna do. You know, and that's the genius of it.
One of those, like he's acting like he's running the sideline, and then he just sits there.
Now for defense, Shane, Mo Kaba, the linebacker for South Carolina. There were a lot of options for South Carolina defense, but all I hear is rave reviews about Mo Kaba and what he can bring to this defense this fall. So that's my defensive MVP right there.
Well, you said others. Was there any others that kind of that tight race there for MVP on defense?
Well, I mean, they got two outstanding safeties, DQ Smith, Nick Imawari. Right. They've got, some linemen that you can count on. I mean, there's no wrong answers here, but I think Mo Kaba is for me, is the easy answer.
Okay.
And hell, they got Dowell at corner. I mean, they got a lot of options.
You just hate defensive backs, man. That's crazy. They got some of the best in the game. You don't acknowledge their presence. So now I'm messing with you.
All right, how about Tennessee, Shane? I'm going Jalen Wright, running back. I think he's going to be a breakout star. led the team in rushing last year. I think he's going to do it again. And I think, potentially one of the biggest breakout candidates in all the SEC is Jalen Wright.
That's a good one, man. And, that room, it's loaded. It ain't just going to be the Jalen Wright show, but I think that's maybe why I would be leaning a little more, I know it sounds crazy, but Brew McCoy. And when you think about Tennessee last year, Hooker had a couple safety valves with Hyatt and Tillman. He's going to, Joe's going to need somebody to be there and dependable and efficient. And if Bruce showed us anything, he's tough as hell. He'll catch it across. I think that's the dude that takes the step forward this year and a real leader of that receiver room.
Now for defense, Shane, I'm with another curveball here for you. I almost went Aaron Beasley.
Uh-huh.
I think most people would. But I'm going 25-year-old Keenan Peely, the BYU transfer, Shane. I think he's going to bring a new aspect to this Tennessee defense because he's kind of a multifaceted linebacker, can play the run, can play the pass, can kind of do it all back there. And I just hear rave reviews. He's come in here. He's going to be a day one starter. He's married. If you're married, you're playing college football, Shane, and you're 25 years old. How can you not be a leader? You know what?
Yeah, that's right. He's just doing taxes and shit on the weekend, there's going to be some new faces, going to be some old faces. That's the one thing about just the whole defense in general. There's not a whole bunch of individual athletes that stand out to you, but at the end of the season, there's going to be some that are obviously key contributors, and I love that defensive front. If they weren't so deep, I guess you could pick one of those guys. You know what I'm saying? Because when you think of MVP, it's removing that athlete, and does this team struggle? Say like we just had Coach come out here yesterday talking about the depth of the defensive backs, even. So you could pick a guy that is a key contributor, but if you're moving, you got plenty of them backing them up. The MVPs also come down to depth charts.
Yeah.
If you take that guy out, your team struggles. So yeah, I like your pick there, man.
All right, how about A&M, Shane? Offense, this was difficult. A lot of different options here, Shane. But again, I'm leaning towards seniority, leaning towards guys that don't have to be here, could have moved on to the NFL. Anaya Smith, the kind of do-it-all player. That may have been a big reason why, not the only reason, but a big reason why A&M disappointed last year because he got banged up, missed most of the season. I think that was instrumental in their kind of decline on that side of the football. So Anaya Smith back for what seems like his 20th year in college football. He's got to be a leader for us.
Was there any pause? Because you ask people, a lot of people think, Evan's the best out there, or hell, I've seen some think Moose is. And is there any, was there any hesitancy of picking one of those guys?
No, but yeah, I do think Evan is better.
Yeah.
I'll make that clear because I think he's going to be an All-American. But I think Anaya Smith is going to be the guy people look to. That'll get them jacked up in the big moments, big plays, team leader, team captain, two-time invitee to media days. Only showed up once, but 2 times. That should tell you something about it, how the locker room views Anaya Smith.
Oh, all right. I thought you were going to follow that up. That beer hitting wrong. I've been there, man. Got one of them bubbles pop up on you.
Now, defensive line, Shane, I'm going McKinley, Jackson, defensive lineman. I think, we've made no bones about it. We think this defensive line could be the difference between A&M being a SEC and potentially playoff contender. They've got to live up to their potential. Didn't quite, they flashed it at times last year, but we need one of these guys, one of these older guys to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and get everybody whipped in shape, get them in the right mindset. Because if this A&M defensive line lives up to their potential, Shane, they could be unblockable. So give me, I think, the best lineman, one of the oldest linemen, and another one that, I think this is a big money year for McKinley Jackson.
Yeah, just a freaking wrecking ball up front. That's what you want. It frees up everybody behind you. So, yeah, I love this pick.
All right, last but not least, Vanderbilt. Shane, we're going to be seeing them here in just a couple of days. Will Shepard at
Yep.
receiver. I think that's an easy one for the Commodores. Big time playmaker. Going to anticipate a huge season for him this fall on the West End. And Ethan Barr, Shane, linebacker, one of the most productive players of the Clark Lee era, back for a third season. And he's probably going to be their most dominant defensive player as well.
Yeah, no, this is especially at the receiver room. This room is loaded, and that is definitely the captain of that crew. And I expect a high flying offense, man. And it sounds crazy when you talk about Vanderbilt, but you're going to get a dose of it when Hawaii comes to town. So, yeah, I'm actually excited about the pieces at Vanderbilt these days because they're going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, can you believe it, buddy? We are about 48 hours away from some college football action. How about it?
Oh man, I can't wait! I'm looking at I'm get on my bookie and I'm looking at my bets and I'm like, is this the one? Is this my lock of the week? So I'm pumped up, ready to put some money on these boys and drink cold beer, hang out with Mike and all you guys and girls out there. We're gonna be live tomorrow. Don't forget. That's I guess 6. If that changes for some reason, we'll be sure to not tell you, and just pops up on your YouTube feed. So just have your notifications on and subscribe there, and when we do go live, you'll be notified. But yeah, I'm pumped up, man. This is it. This is, like I said, this is the final list, Mike. This is the final list. Now tomorrow we got a surprise for you. Because we've all got those games, and I want y'all to think about this tonight. We all got that game that you're going to kick their ass, right? Your team's going to run right through them. But that fan base knows that they're going to kick your ass. So be ready, because we're going to have key games tomorrow, talking about the ones that each fan base thinks they're going to win rolling in. So be sure to check us live tomorrow. Like I said, 6 o'clock. But if you got your notification on YouTube, it will alert you when we go live.
Yeah, it'll be the final show before the season kicks off. I cannot wait. 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 Central on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all that. Will be live. Come hang out.
Yeah.
We love interacting with you guys, and this will be us ramping it up to doing these twice a week, Thursday night, Sunday night. Show up and come hang out and talk.
Last show that we don't hang out in the same room too, Mike. I'm going to start wearing pants again.
Well, buddy, I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the cousins out there. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right, see you guys. Go Vols.